Imagine visiting a country famous for its snow-covered mountains, crystal-clear lakes, and breathtaking landscapes, only to discover that hidden among those peaks stands an entirely different world. A world of kings, knights, powerful noble families, and castles that have watched over Switzerland for nearly 1,000 years. Long before luxury trains crossed these valleys, before modern cities appeared, and long before millions of travelers arrived each year, these massive stone fortresses ruled the mountains. Some protected entire kingdoms, others guarded important trade routes through the Alps. Many survived devastating wars, deadly sieges, political betrayals, and centuries of European conflict. Yet today, most visitors drive right past them without ever realizing what stands above their heads. Behind ancient walls lie forgotten stories, secret passageways, medieval prisons, hidden courtyards, and breathtaking views unlike anywhere else in Europe. Today we're traveling across Switzerland to discover its most extraordinary castles. Each one has its own history, its own legends, its own battles, and one of them is considered by many historians to be the most beautiful castle in the entire country. Stay with us until the very end, because our final destination may completely change the way you see Switzerland forever. Our journey begins now. Our journey begins on the peaceful shores of Lake Geneva. At first glance, it almost looks like a castle from a fairy tale. Stone towers rise directly from the water. Snow-covered mountains stand silently in the background, and the crystal-clear lake perfectly reflects every wall, every tower, and every window. This is Chillon Castle. Without question, it is one of the most photographed castles in all of Switzerland. But behind its breathtaking beauty lies a history filled with power, imprisonment, and survival. For nearly 1,000 years, Chillon guarded one of the most important trade routes connecting northern and southern Europe. Every merchant, every soldier, every noble family traveling through this region passed beneath its walls. The House of Savoy understood something that few others did. Whoever controlled Chillon controlled the gateway through the Alps. Taxes were collected here, political alliances were negotiated here, and prisoners whose names have been forgotten by history spent years locked inside its cold stone dungeons. Even today, as you walk through its halls, the castle feels remarkably alive. The wooden floors still creak beneath your feet. The thick stone walls still echo with every step, and the silence seems to carry the voices of centuries gone by. Yet among all the rooms inside Chillon, there is one place that no visitor ever forgets: the underground prison. Beneath the beautiful towers of Chillon lies a place that feels completely different from the castle above. The sunlight disappears, the air becomes colder, and every stone seems to hold the memory of those who were never free. For centuries, these underground chambers served as prisons for political enemies, soldiers, and prisoners whose names have long been forgotten. But one man changed the history of this castle forever. His name was François Bonivard. A scholar, patriot, and outspoken critic of powerful rulers, Bonivard became one of the most famous prisoners in Swiss history. In the early 16th century, he was arrested and brought to Chillon Castle. Deep beneath the fortress, he was chained to a massive stone pillar. Year after year, he walked in circles around that pillar, wearing a visible groove into the stone floor. His prison became his entire world. The silence became his closest companion, and hope slowly faded with each passing season. Years later, Bonivard was finally rescued when the city of Bern captured the castle. His survival became a symbol of courage, resilience, and the desire for freedom. Centuries later, the famous English poet Lord Byron visited these very dungeons. Standing beside the same stone pillar, he imagined Bonivard's lonely years underground. Inspired by the experience, Byron wrote The Prisoner of Chillon, a poem that introduced this Swiss castle to readers around the world. Even today, visitors can still see the pillar where Bonnivard was chained, and when the underground halls fall, silent. It is easy to imagine the footsteps that once echoed through these ancient stones. Leaving the peaceful shores of Lake Geneva behind, our journey now takes us deep into eastern Switzerland. Here, surrounded by towering Alpine peaks, stands a fortress unlike any other in the country. From a distance, it almost seems impossible. Balanced high above the valley on a massive rocky cliff, Tarasp Castle appears as if it were growing directly from the mountain itself. For more than 9 centuries, this fortress has dominated the surrounding landscape. Long before modern roads existed, before tunnels crossed these mountains, and before travelers explored these valleys for pleasure, Tarasp stood watch over one of the most strategic regions of the Alps. From its towers, guards could see approaching travelers hours before they reached the castle. Every road, every bridge, every mountain pass could be carefully observed from above. Its location made it one of the safest fortresses ever built in Switzerland. For invading armies, reaching the castle was already a battle. Conquering it was something else entirely. Massive defensive walls, narrow entrances, steep cliffs on every side. Nature itself became part of the castle's defenses. Standing here today, it becomes almost impossible not to ask one simple question. How did medieval builders create something this extraordinary on top of a mountain more than 900 years ago? From the outside, Tarasp Castle looks cold, silent, and almost impossible to enter. But behind its massive stone walls, a completely different world once existed. This was not simply a military fortress. It was a small, self-contained community. Noble families lived here. Children grew up within these walls. Servants worked from sunrise until late into the night. Blacksmiths repaired weapons and tools. Bakers filled the castle with the smell of fresh bread. And every day, dozens of people depended on the fortress for their survival. The Great Hall stood at the center of castle life. Here, important decisions were made. Political alliances were discussed. Celebrations filled the room with music, laughter, and candlelight. Yet only a few steps away, dark prison cells reminded everyone that power and justice often walked side by side. During the Middle Ages, the castle's chapel offered a place of prayer before battles. Its kitchens prepared meals for entire households. Deep underground storage rooms protected grain, wine, and supplies that could keep the castle alive for months. During a siege, every room had a purpose. Every stone was carefully placed. Nothing inside these walls existed by accident. Tarasp was not only built to resist enemies, it was built to survive almost anything. If Tarasp was built to intimidate, Gruyères was built to inspire. Perched gracefully on a gentle hill, overlooking rolling green fields, this castle seems almost untouched by time. The surrounding landscape is peaceful. The mountains rise quietly in the distance. Colorful flowers decorate centuries-old stone walls, and the nearby medieval village feels as though it has never left the Middle Ages. It is difficult to imagine that this peaceful place once stood at the center of political struggles, noble rivalries, and the constant fight for power. Construction of Gruyères Castle began in the 13th century, becoming the residence of the powerful Counts of Gruyères. For generations, they ruled the surrounding lands from these very halls. Their decisions shaped the lives of thousands of people. Every visitor who approached the castle understood one thing immediately. This was not just a home, it was a symbol of authority. Its towers overlooked fertile valleys, its walls protected valuable lands, and its rulers controlled one of the wealthiest regions of medieval Switzerland. But even the most powerful families cannot escape time forever. After centuries of prosperity, financial difficulties slowly weakened the house of Gruyères. Debts increased, power declined, and eventually the dynasty that had ruled this castle for generations disappeared from history. Yet somehow, the castle survived, and today it remains one of the most beautiful examples of medieval architecture in all of Switzerland. Not every great castle in Switzerland survived untouched. Some were transformed into museums. Others became elegant palaces, but one of them tells a very different story. High above the village of Mesocco, hidden among forests and rugged Alpine cliffs, stand the silent ruins of one of the largest medieval fortresses ever built in Switzerland. Even after centuries of abandonment, its enormous walls still dominate the valley below. Standing here, it is impossible not to imagine what this place looked like at the height of its power more than 1,000 years ago. Mesocco Castle controlled one of the most important mountain routes connecting northern and southern Europe. Merchants carrying valuable goods, pilgrims crossing the Alps, messengers delivering royal orders. Everyone who entered this valley passed beneath the shadow of these towering walls. The castle was expanded over generations, growing into an immense defensive complex with powerful towers, multiple walls, and enough space to protect hundreds of people during times of war. From its highest tower, guards could watch every movement across the valley. Nothing escaped their attention. For centuries, Mesocco appeared almost impossible to conquer. Yet history has a way of changing even the strongest fortresses. Political conflicts reshaped the region. Military strategies evolved, trade routes shifted, and slowly, the giant that had once ruled the valley began to fall silent. Today, only its ruins remain. But sometimes, ruins tell even greater stories than castles that were never destroyed. Our final destination takes us to a place unlike anywhere else in Switzerland. Most castles were built to defend a single hill, a single valley, or a single noble family. But Bellinzona was different. Here 3 mighty fortresses worked together as one enormous defensive system. Castelgrande, Montebello, and Sasso Corbaro, together, they transformed this valley into one of the most heavily defended places in medieval Europe. For centuries, anyone wishing to cross the Alps through this region had only one choice: pass beneath these walls or turn back. Massive stone fortifications stretched across the valley. Watchtowers communicated with one another across the hills. Soldiers could respond to danger within minutes. From above, the 3 castles appear, like silent guardians watching over the city below. Even today, their design is astonishing. Built centuries before modern engineering, they were positioned with remarkable precision to control every important route through the valley. It is no surprise that UNESCO recognized Bellinzona's castles as one of the world's greatest examples of medieval military architecture. Walking through these fortresses today, it becomes clear that they represent something greater than stone walls. They tell the story of a nation determined to protect its independence, a nation that understood the value of every mountain pass, every bridge, and every gateway through the Alps. As the sun begins to set behind these ancient towers, one final thought remains. Switzerland is not only the country of breathtaking mountains, it is also a land where history still stands proudly above the valleys, waiting for those willing to discover it.